And eventually I paused and knew that I was, I guess, the issue. I knew it wasn't because I wasn't working hard enough. I knew it was something within myself that was blocking the clients and the money and the success from coming through.
Welcome back to another episode of Start Somewhere, the podcast. I am joined by another incredible guest today, Jess Martin. We are going to be covering so much ground, all on mindset and business. And Jess, welcome to the show. So excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited for our chat today.
Going to be so great. So, do you want to give the listeners just a brief snapshot of who you are? Because we are going to dive into so much value today. I'm so excited.
Yes. Well, I'm in my 30s, which is something I want to start with because that's a new thing for me. And I was just saying this something the other day, like, what do you mean I'm in my 30s? Like, where the hell does life go? Which is why we should take it and run with it. I live on the Gold Coast, which was a move I made about 8 years ago to be closer to the beach and just be around the lifestyle that's up here. I come from a place where, similar to your story, Isabel, Canberra, you're from Adelaide, very life is about working and getting into the public service and just the corporate grind. And I wasn't for that anymore. So I moved to the Gold Coast. I'm recently married, which is very new. We got married in February, which was the best day. And then work-wise, I am a mindset and business coach for female entrepreneurs. However, not a career I had imagined myself being in. And I know we'll talk about this today. But from a very young age, I wanted to be a lawyer. So that's what I did. I went to uni, I got really good grades. I got a job in a personal injury firm and I worked as a personal injury lawyer for 6 years. Throughout that phase of life, quickly realized that was not the path for me. I finally asked myself the question, what do I want my life to look like? And I was not on the right path for that. So I went into network marketing for a little bit and grew that business for about 2.5 years. Worked very hard to grow that business and it never really took off. And eventually I paused and knew that I was, I guess, the issue. I knew it wasn't because I wasn't working hard enough. I knew it was something within myself that was blocking the clients and the money and the success from coming through. So I spent about 1.5 years diving into my own personal development, doing a lot of subconscious work. I discovered Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is the GOAT for a lot of my teachings now. And yeah, really uncovered that I didn't have the subconscious program for the business that I was trying to build. In that journey, I found information that I knew more women had to know who were on a similar path. You know, growing up, it was get a corporate job, climb the career ladder, get paid a salary, who were now wanting something different, but they didn't have that programming for it. So I started my podcast, Abundant and Aligned, and that quickly grew because everyone came to me and they're like, this just makes so much sense. I'm working so hard in my business. I'm doing all the things, but it's not taking off. And it usually is the case that they just don't have the subconscious program for it. So that led to, similar to you, creating an ebook, which led to a program. And now my signature offers are a high-level business mastermind called Her Empire, and then a business academy focusing on the mindset, which is called the Academy. And that's what I do. It's what I love. It's what I was born to do. I recently had a soul contract reading and it confirmed that I'm on the right path. So that's a nice feeling. And yeah, it's just really about building this business alongside living the most incredible life up here and just showing women that success and freedom can coexist.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. And I want to just touch on, originally being a lawyer, that seems like worlds away to where you are now, your whole entrepreneurial journey. So what do you feel was that limiting belief that you had to reprogram to really fully step into this incredible version of yourself now?
It was believing that I could do it. You know, I grew up in a household where the women got corporate jobs, they were a teacher, or they were a stay-at-home mum. So even though I consciously wanted to be an entrepreneur, deep down, there was this part of me that's like, isn't that too good to be true? Like, what do you mean you can actually work for yourself,
Mhm.
online, people can pay you while you're getting your nails done or while you're on an aeroplane. I knew it was possible, but inside I didn't. So the biggest belief I had to work through was actually being on board with this being a reality I could live. And that's where, it comes down to the subconscious program. I just didn't have the subconscious program to believe in an online business with passive income. I was programmed to get paid a salary and just climb the corporate ladder. So it was just that inner belief that there is a different way to create success and make money.
That's the thing. And oftentimes we think it's too good to be true, therefore it's not true. And it's this whole like subconscious block. And I also love that you mentioned Joe Dispenza. I've read all of his books. I know the listeners of my show love him as well. And so like, what was that moment where, I mean, I guess you discovered his work and also that moment that made you realize, no, like you're meant for so much more. You're not meant for this, quote unquote traditional life anymore.
So the original book, and I remember it like it was yesterday, I was reading a book and it was called The Answers. And it's kind of ironic because at that part in my life, I thought I was living my dream and I didn't think I had any answers to find. But as it always is the case, this book crossed my path and I started reading it. And there was a journal prompt in there, and it was, if your life could look any way, how would that be for you? And I had pages and pages in this journal. Actually, it was before the day I even owned a journal. So pieces of A4 paper were just filled with these ideas, and they seemed like far-fetched ideas to work for myself, to have the freedom to jump on a plane and go home and see my family whenever I wanted, to have long weekends every single week. And I was just writing about this life of freedom and control that at the time felt ridiculous and silly, but it was just bubbling up to the surface. And very quickly, I had this realization that I can't keep being a lawyer and stay on this path because this is actually what I wanted. And then the more you allow your imagination to run wild, it starts to feel a little bit more real and you get really excited by the possibility. So as I mentioned, eventually that led to exploring what could that look like? How could I be self-employed? How could I create this life of freedom? And as I said, ended up on the path of network marketing. But yeah, it really just started with such a simple question of like, if life could look any way, how would that be for you? And it just snowballed from there.
That's always what happens. And it's like the whole piece of curiosity and just following that nudge, which we actually shared on your podcast episode before as well. And it makes so much sense. Like, what's that intuitive nudge there?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had no idea I was going to be a business coach. No idea. I just
Yeah.
followed the breadcrumb, which was, well, being a lawyer isn't fulfilling you and you are desiring this different way to live life. Let's explore that. And of course, within a couple of weeks, content on Instagram within the network marketing industry started popping up. My reticular activating system got to work on finding a way. So that was the first breadcrumb that I followed. And then when things weren't taking off, the next breadcrumb was learning more about the subconscious mind and how our mindset creates everything, which then led to the podcast. And as I mentioned, like all these breadcrumbs ultimately got me here today. But yeah, I'd never envisioned that this is how it would ultimately look.
That's so interesting. And the whole network marketing business as well. I feel like that I was the same. I was in one also. I feel like that's how a lot of people in this space we started out. And it's so cool because I feel like it gives you the foundations to realize what's really possible. And then a lot of the times people actually just run with their own thing. So yeah, it's so interesting. So many people started in that place.
I actually do. I have that conversation a lot.
Yeah, there you go. What was the business are you in?
I was in Arbonne.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Oh, what the hell? Our
So
paths we
similar.
crossed so many times before.
Probably. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So I really want to shift gears and like go deeper on the whole reprogramming your identity because I mean, for my selfish reasons, it's so fascinating. And I know the listeners as well. And just to, I'd love for you to shine the light on how doing this type of work in particular to match your vision, to match the identity, to match like the quote unquote dream person that you are living now. Like what were those things? Because oftentimes we have a vision board, we journal, we know all the things that we want, and we're actually just not really like a vibrational match for it yet, or our identities or our reprogramming or for lack of a better word, we almost like cock block it coming into our reality because we don't know how to hold it. So what are some like really simple starting shifts that the listeners can start to incorporate?
Yeah, so I think number one is understanding how our subconscious mind works. So, as you mentioned, our entire identity, well, 90% of it is influencing our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, our behaviors, and then the results that we manifest. 90% of that identity is created from this subconscious mind, which is lurking underneath the surface. When we consciously want something, and what a lot of women do is they create the vision board or they write about it in their journal, but the missing link is all of this is still just happening at that conscious level, and we need to actually access the subconscious to do the reprogramming. So the way that I've always wrapped my head around this is imagine that your mind is literally just a computer system, and somewhere along the line someone programmed it to perform a particular function. Most of that programming took place before the age of 7, which is wild, but you're now walking around based on that programming from the age of 7. And if you have a think about what you got told growing up, what you experienced, what you observed, there will be correlation between the thoughts and the beliefs that you have today because it's coming from that program. Now, where we often get stuck and we cock block things is because what we consciously want isn't actually matched up to the program we have, or simply we're just not programmed to create it. So, in my story, when I started my network marketing business, while I consciously wanted to be self-employed and work online and have this life of time freedom, I didn't have the subconscious program to be able to create that reality. My programming was you have to work really hard for money, you climb the corporate ladder, you get paid a 100K salary, you play by the rules. And so that was my program. And that just didn't line up with what I actually wanted. If you aren't programmed to do something, you can't do it. So we need to ultimately get into the subconscious using different modalities, but I'll give you one really simple way to do that. But we ultimately need to access your computer system and then do the reprogramming work. If you are young, you might not remember what a cassette tape is, but growing up, me and my sister used to record ourselves singing into a cassette tape. And you could record over that cassette tape as many times as you wanted. You just rewind and then hit record and you just keep playing over it. The same can be said for our subconscious mind. You actually have the ability to access the subconscious, rewind the tape, and then record a new program over the top. And what we want that program to be full of is all of your dreams and ambitions that you're trying to consciously create. So there's so many different modalities that you can follow to access the subconscious, but we have an access point naturally throughout our day. So when you very first wake up in the morning and just as you drift off to sleep at night, your brainwave slows down, your brainwave frequency is slower. And essentially, we have 4 different brainwave frequencies: beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Alpha is that state that you're in at the end of the day when you're winding down, you're on the couch, and you're kind of getting a little bit sleepy. And then once you jump into bed and you start to drift off to sleep, you're in that theta brainwave frequency. And then when you wake up in the morning, same can be said: theta and then alpha. So essentially, your brainwaves are slower. Those are the windows where we have an access point to your subconscious mind. So if you can listen to the program that you want to embed during those parts of your day, that logical mind is no longer the gatekeeper and it's going immediately into the subconscious and we're replaying over the program. So having a affirmations track, which I'm happy to share with you guys, that you play literally first thing in the morning so that you're in that alpha state and your mind is just listening to it, and then listening to a sleep meditation at night to capture that theta brainwave frequency. And as I mentioned, everything that you're listening to in those windows of your day are going straight into the subconscious, and that reprogramming work is beginning to take place. Now, not only are you changing your mind at that conscious level by having the vision boards or listening to the podcast and journaling about it, you're also accessing the subconscious and doing the reprogramming work that way.
Oh my gosh, I love this kind of work. And yeah, I love as well, like the affirmations in the morning. I found even years ago when I found all this kind of stuff, I would be on YouTube and finding affirmations for a good day, meditations, and it seriously works. It's all about essentially watching your mind.
Literally, yeah. But there is really important that you're doing it in those pockets. And a lot of the content that I share is affirmations can kind of be a waste of time if they're done in the wrong times of your day. I mean, they're going to be powerful any time of the day. Obviously, you're really just tuning into more empowering thoughts and beliefs. However, again, if you really want to ensure these affirmations are powerful, have them playing first thing in the morning and as you go to sleep at night. And it's ensuring that that cassette tape is being recorded over.
I love that analogy as well. And yeah, if you have a resource, I'll definitely share that with the listeners because yeah, I actually didn't realize that the whole affirmation piece, it's dependent on the times of day. That's really good to know, actually. And that makes sense. Like when we're drifting off into sleep, I always just try and visualize, my dream life or my next thing. And like that's so much more powerful.
Yeah. Well, visualizing is so powerful. And then, yeah, if you can have those tracks playing while you're asleep and you're not even awake anymore, it's still getting into the subconscious. So, yeah, the
Yeah.
power we have over our own minds, just as an everyday person, is so cool once you know the methods. And the methods are actually really simple.
Yeah, that's it. And like, let's map this across now to business. So, from what you shared, you sound incredibly successful in your coaching business and everything that you do with your podcast and your programs. So, how are you using these modalities to fuel your own success?
So, with every new level comes a new devil.
Oh, so true.
Yeah. Some people look, let's say, at my business and go, "You've built a multi six-figure business. Do you still have limiting beliefs?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, because now I'm moving towards the seven-figure mark and I pretty much have to start the work all over again, essentially." So this work for me has never stopped. I'm always reprogramming my mind because we'll hit these ceilings eventually. And it's simply because that next level for you just isn't familiar for your brain. So I'm still having my morning routine with these affirmations. I'm still listening to a sleep meditation every night. Like the work for me doesn't stop because I need my mind to constantly be expanded if I want my business to continue to expand. Another way that I do this is like a thermostat, and we know the way a thermostat works. It's like you set the temperature in the room, and if the room gets warmer, the thermostat kicks in and brings it down, or if it drops below that, thermostat kicks in and brings it back up. We have an inner thermostat, and we all have that limit set. Whether you are making six figures, seven figures, eight figures, nine figures, there's still a thermostat setting in place, and eventually it will kick into gear and bring you back down in whatever way that looks. And that will be dependent on the level you're at. But regardless, it will kick into gear. So doing this work and constantly being plugged into your personal development is so important so that that thermostat setting can continue to be shifted when you're ready to shift your business. So yeah, morning routine is a huge part of my practice, and I'm very regimented with my morning routine. It looks like waking up, meditating, well, having my affirmations track play, meditating, and then I'll do some journaling. I'll read my vision statement, and then I'll go and do a workout, just like really get me in the energy. And then, as I mentioned, a sleep meditation every single night. And yeah, it's been the holy grail for me. And it's why my business, I feel, has grown so quickly because I stay plugged into this mindset work.
Yeah, and I love the thermostat analogy you gave as well. And I'm so curious to know, so you're a six-figure business owner on track to hit seven figures. So if you could like take it back to when you were a five-figure business owner, what was what was that biggest reprogramming you had to do to get yourself over that jump?
A lot of it was, as I mentioned, just normalizing that working for yourself within the online space isn't too good to be true. And it's a reality that is available. I wasn't creating a life to be the first person on Mars. If no one's done that, they haven't yet. I wasn't doing something ridiculous. I was doing something that people are doing every single day. So at that point, it was really just normalizing that there was a different way for work to look and for income to come through the door. So visualization was huge for me back then. I call it mental rehearsal, which is a practice that Dr. Joe Dispenza is big on. And back then, it would look like normalizing showing up in my coaching business, having real clients, seeing those sales come through, mentally rehearsing that being a possibility for me. Another huge component that took me from working as a lawyer to the five-figure mark and then being able to jump full time in my business was really just making the decision that this was now going to be my life. And sometimes we can do all the inner work and we can debunk every belief and we can do all the tasks in our business. But if things aren't moving quickly enough for you, there's still a part of you that's allowing that to be so. And I remember the day so clear. I woke up and I was like, I am done putting 10K months on my vision board. I am done having these sticky notes all through my house, 10K, 10K, 10K. I'm not setting this as a goal anymore. And I just made that decision more than I ever had before that it was going to be the reality for me. And that month, I went on to have a 10K month. A couple of months later, it was 15K. And by that end of that year, it was 20K months. And it really just came down to normalizing that level and then making the decision that it was mine. Moving now to the 7 figure mark, it looks very different. And it's interesting you asked this because I'm really navigating what actually is going to be the difference between the 6 figure and the 7 figure mark. I know this is possible. I've made the decision. I'm doing the work. I think at the moment it's really trusting the way that I'm supposed to do this. So there are a million and one ways that you could build to 7 figures. And where I have been feeling a bit sticky and facing resistance is trying to do it in a way that I'm not supposed to do it. I just know I'm supposed to build to 7 figures in an unconventional way. It's not going to look like hustling, burning myself out. It's not going to look like back to back sales calls. It's not going to look like being in my office all day long. It's going to be infused with this element of freedom, which is why I created my brand. And so it's about trusting that that's how I'm supposed to do it and really tuning within to those little niggles that we spoke about on my show. If I go to do a strategy that 7 figure coaches are teaching and it doesn't feel good for me, trusting that there's a different way that I need to do it. And I truly do believe that's going to be the difference between here and there is trusting that a little bit more and walking a path that not a lot of coaches are walking. And that for me will be what really makes me stand out in the crowd, and ultimately get to those figures.
That's so exciting. I'm so excited to see like what that path and journey looks for you. And I feel we can so easily be like, oh, that worked for them, therefore let me map it across and make it work for me. And it's that whole piece of what feels great. And I can think of like some friends that have been in coaching containers where they're teaching them strategies that just doesn't make their nervous system feel good. And it's like, great, lean into that. And just, it does like business doesn't have to be that way. Just because it works that way for one person doesn't mean it works that way for you. And it's, yeah, that whole piece of self-trust. I really love like the answer you just shared so much.
Yeah, I literally did a story on my Instagram yesterday saying, as I mentioned before, there are so many different strategies you can follow to get to 6 figures, to get to seven, to get to eight, whatever. And those strategies will work if you believe in them and they feel good for you, and then you follow them. But another strategy can work just as well. So, what I always say to people is figure out how you want success to look like for you, feel like for you. What is the path? If you could create it in your own mind first, what is that for you? And then once you come to your own conclusion, then go ahead and plug into mentors and coaches that will support that way of building. Because yeah, any way will work for you if you believe in it. But we want it to feel good for you. And you've got to gain that clarity first and then go and get the support to make it happen for you.
That's it. And like proximity is power and finding people that have done it before and learning from them. And not even like learning the tangible stuff, but just being in their energy and hearing the words they use and just being around that. And I always say, if I see success in another woman, like envy or jealousy doesn't creep into my mind. Instead, I'm like, it's possible for them, therefore it's possible for me. And that's what getting in other people's worlds looks like. And I also want to touch on like the whole like sticky notes of 10K months. Like I feel that's such a thing in our industry in particular. And I loved how you shared going all in. So
Mm.
what does going all in mean for you? Like what was that point where you're like, nah, this is it. I'm making this happen. Like what did you actually do?
This sounds so annoying when I say this to people because people want like this secret sauce, but it was just a decision inside of me that I had not made before. And it was this level of certainty that I would make it happen. And I thought I had made that decision up until that point. But if I really was honest with myself, there was still doubt lurking underneath the surface. We want all doubt removed. And the visualization practices, reprogramming your subconscious mind will help with that for sure. But there also needs to be this element of enough is enough. I'm done continuing to work towards these goals. I'm done being available for anything else. and this is it for me. I'm making it happen. And we can cultivate this certainty. An example I love to give is have a think about the sun rising tomorrow and just think about that and how that feels in your body. There is no doubt inside your body. You're not sitting there going, "Oh, I wonder if it will come up tomorrow," and questioning it. You just know for sure. You have so much certainty that the sun will rise tomorrow. So we want to bring that and infuse that within your goals. So I was starting to do that. I would literally close down my eyes and I would think about the sun coming up tomorrow and visualize the sun rising tomorrow. And then I would tune into how that level of certainty felt in my body. And then what I did is swapped out the picture for, say, the 10K month goal. And immediately my body would go back to doubt. So then I'd bring the sun image back, create the level of certainty in my body, and then bring the 10K image back. This takes practice, but what you ultimately want to get to is this point where the doubt doesn't creep in and you can hold that level of certainty while, in quotes, looking at the picture of you hitting your 10K month. What you're doing there is neurologically so profound, but you're essentially showing your body this is how we want to feel towards this goal, because your body doesn't know that doubting your goal is bad or questioning it is negative. It just knows this is the only association we have as a feeling. So by doing a task like that, you're actually creating the hardware in your brain for you to feel certain towards your goal, and that becomes your new emotional default. So I was actually really delusional at this point. Like I was literally like doing exercises like that every day, meditating so much. But then of course, like showing up in my business like I was already making 10K months. And this is an audit that you can do again, whether you're working towards 10K or seven figures or whatever it is for you. There are things that the, let's say, 10K version of you does, and there are things that she does not do. And you want to start showing up in that way now. So many of us are doing things in our business because we're still in the anticipation of getting to the goal. We're hustling towards the goal. We're working towards the goal. But once we got there, we wouldn't do these things. I challenge you to stop doing those things now and be as if you're already there. Or if there are things that she would do, if she is being more vulnerable online or she's launching that offer, start doing that now. Don't wait to be at the 10K month before you start doing these things, and embody that 10K version of you in terms of how you feel and how you act. And I promise you will jump timelines.
I love everything you just shared. And how can we get clear on, okay, what is that future version of me doing? Because a lot of the times I can imagine our listeners, they may be stuck in fear or analysis paralysis and they have no clue what that version of them is doing. So how can we tap in and get clear on that?
Yeah, I have a meditation again. I'm so happy to share it with your audience where you meet your future self. So, what this scene does is gets you to drop into a future scene where you are already living as that woman. You're already making the 10K, you're already in that house, you've already got the ocean views, you're doing whatever you want to do. And we actually have the ability in this meditation to firstly see her and just get to know her and visualize her. But then we have the ability to actually tune into her resonance. And it sounds weird listening to this podcast because this is the difference between the logical mind and our creative
We
and
go woo woo. We
yeah,
go.
our imagination. But you have the ability to actually tune into her resonance. And during this meditation, you somewhat like morph into her. And when you do that, and then you sit in, let's say, her body and her energy, the amount of downloads that will drop into your mind, you can't even make sense of. So those answers will come to you. And if you go into that meditation with the intention of, all right, tell me what I need to do or tell me what I need to stop doing, and you go into that meditation, I promise those will just drop into your mind. You'll know what needs to be done. You'll know what needs to be stopped. And if it doesn't happen on your first attempt, keep going until you find those answers, because you already know what you want to do. You've just been too afraid to take the leap. Or you know that every time you, for example, take that sales call, you do not want to be there, but you're doing it because you feel like you have to. That niggle's already inside of you, but this meditation will help bring it all to the surface. So definitely try that first, and I'll be very surprised if the answers don't drop in. Otherwise, just be more conscious of what you're doing in your business and how it feels for you. So when you do show up in that way online, instead of just creating the content and chucking it out there, really just tune in of like, did that excite me? Am I really excited for the world to see this? Or do I feel like I just put that up because I feel like I have to just post today? Or when you are getting on those sales calls or sharing that offer, again, is there this element of I could do this until the day I die? Or is it I'm only doing this to get to the 10K month? And again, that will kind of steer you in the right direction.
Yes, it's so true. And we do go woo woo here, and it's like it's the energy that you do things in. And my God, I'm really keen to try this meditation myself. And it's so interesting you said that. I was on a walk just yesterday, like no headphones, no distraction, and I love to do this. And I'm like just talking to my higher self, like what do I need to know for that next level for me? And I got some ideas, some downloads, but I'm really keen to designate a whole meditation for it because yeah, I'm always questioning what's that thing. And I also find myself sometimes, yes, I'm acting as if my future self. However, can you talk into like, well, sometimes, we do just need a quote unquote hustle, or we do just need to do these certain things in our life or business because that's just the current season we're at. So, how do we navigate that versus acting from our higher self?
Mm. I always call that aligned action. And you can be in a busy season in your business, working, maybe you're launching a program or you have just done a rebrand and you're like, all right, I'm back, I'm fresh, like let's go, let's make this big. But still, there is action that is aligned action, and there is action that you're only taking because you're scared if you didn't, you wouldn't get to where you want to go. So you know what that looks like for you. You want it to feel good. Like there is a business and there is a way to build to success that actually does feel good. Sometimes is, of course, days where you're like, I can't be bothered for this, or I'm tired today. But you should still find enjoyment in what you're doing in your business. There should still be an element of passion. And if you're literally doing it out of fear, if you dread doing it, if you're like, oh my God, I just need to get to the 10K mark because I'm not doing this anymore, then that's the difference. And I think this is such a good conversation because you're allowed to be busy in your business. You are allowed to be in like a push phase, a really hard season, but it can still feel good for you. You can still enjoy it. So I guess like to answer that, yes, there are busier seasons, but still do the aligned action that the version of you would do if she was already there. And that does come with an element of trust, and it does ruffle some feathers, but the sooner you can be her now, the sooner you will be her. So if she's not doing it that way, don't do it that way. If she is doing it that way, do it that way and just do a little bit more of it.
And what about the fine line where we're acting as that next version of ourselves and also still having immense gratitude for where we are currently? And I feel like I love to speak into this. We're always kind of wanting the next thing, and we get the thing, and we're not really that fulfilled, or we are for like a second. And then we're constantly chasing the next goal, the next milestone in our business. And it's interesting. This is a conversation I'm having even with friends, with family, with clients on the podcast. It's such a thing. And I'm just like, why is this like, I don't know. I would love to just hear your insights on that because it's so frustrating because we work so hard to achieve the things we want. We get the things we want. And then it's almost like we tell ourselves it's not enough and we go to the next thing. And like, isn't the whole point of life this current moment and what we're doing right this second? However, our minds are just always thinking next, next, next. And I'm like, oh, we just need to drop back into where we are currently.
I think it's finding the balance, enjoying your present and being grateful for the present, but also knowing you are an expander and a visionary and you get excited by what's next. And I do believe you can balance the two. Have moments where you do just drop in, you're like, holy shit, look how far I've come, look what I've created. I'm so proud, I'm so grateful, but then also be okay about moving to that next level. And that there is just a matter of dropping in. And as you mentioned, just being in the present, probably more times than what you're in the future, but continue to dream about your future, continue to imagine like that's what you're put on this earth to do. You are a visionary. You have this capability to imagine a life and then create it. That's your power. So don't feel by doing that that you're not being grateful for your present, but it's just about ensuring that you're doing both. Because I do know a lot of women spend too much in the future. And as you mentioned, they're really not celebrating how far they've come. So that could look like having a morning practice where before you think about what's next, before you tune into that future, just have a moment for the present and where you're at. While you're walking along the beach, just take a look at the ocean and really feel gratitude for the move that you made, or whip out your journal and just jot down things that you're grateful for right now. Like have that moment and then move on to what your tasks look like to tune in and create that next move for you. With all of that being said, I feel like there are definitely moments where it's time to set a goal and move towards it, but it's also time to keep the goalpost where it is. Um, so many reasons for that. Your story's, I guess, one of them. Like if your nervous system is feeling so wobbly, it's probably time to just stay put for a while and just normalize where you're at. Um, Also consider like why you are moving to that next level. Like what's the feeling that you are trying to chase? And if there is something in your life that can actually create that feeling already and trying to enjoy the feeling now, that will help with that feeling of achieving something and not feeling fulfilled because I don't know, you just achieved the thing and didn't think about why you wanted it and the feeling that it was going to create. So spending more time like looking at your goals in that way will help with that fulfillment piece.
That's a really beautiful reframe, actually.
Mhm.
I really loved that. Um, a question as well. Do you often celebrate these big milestones that you have in your life? And if you do, how do you celebrate?
I'm huge on celebrating. I'm always like to my clients, well, actually, in all of my group chats in Her Empire and the Academy, every Friday is celebration day. So they have to drop in something they are celebrating and how they're celebrating, big or small. So I'm huge on that and have always been big on that in my business. The way I celebrate will look like going out for a nice dinner with my now husband, which is still so weird to say, having a champagne, maybe going away for a weekend with my best friend who's also in business and just taking the moment to be like, we did it, and just feeling that gratitude, as you mentioned. So, yeah, I'm huge on celebrating because, as you should, this
Mhm.
once something that your past self dreamt of, and you've done it, you've achieved it. Like that deserves a celebration, no matter how big or small it is. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, well, I'll celebrate once I get to the 10K mark or once I've hit six figures. But it's like you are now posting consistently online. And once upon a time, that was really hard for you to do. So once you notice, oh my God, this is so easy for me now, pop a bottle of champagne and have that moment for yourself. Because again, that was once a goal or a dream that felt hard for you and it's your real life now.
Perfect advice. And do you feel like by celebrating, we're almost calling more of it in as well?
100%. Gratitude is the highest frequency you can embody.
Yeah.
So, by being grateful more often, being joyful and in line with how far you've come, it's like a bit of a wave to the universe of send me
Yeah.
more things that create this feeling. Or because you are vibrating at such a high frequency, things are able to drop into your reality so much quicker because you're matched with those things that are on that frequency.
That's it. And, yeah, the more gratitude you feel, the more good things happen to you. And it's celebrating those really small achievements.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It's a potent energy. So getting it more often for sure.
Yeah. So you shared so much like on your little mindset shifts and subconscious reframes, like both big and small shifts. So what do you feel is the one that has just completely changed who you are as an entrepreneur?
My morning routine.
Okay.
100%. And like I said, it's not just a matter of I wake up at 5 and I see the sunrise and then I go to the gym. Like it's very intentional because I've learned that if you want to create change, you have to change the subconscious program. And we get access to that in the morning by visualizing and doing things like that. So
Yeah.
visualization and my morning routine 100%, but also on par with that is surrounding myself with women who are also doing what I want to do. So very early on in my business, I invested in a coach, I got into masterminds, I went to networking events, I started rubbing shoulders with women who were doing what I wanted to do because as I mentioned at the start of this, a big belief I had to work through was, is this too good to be true? Like, is this actual real life? The moment you have a conversation with a woman who is so similar to you about how much she's making in the coaching industry, for example, suddenly it gets pulled down from the pedestal. And you're like, no, I actually can do this. So having those inner practices and being super consistent. I've always been so consistent. And I think that repetition is key, and a lot of people just aren't sticking to it long enough. And I know that's probably the word we all don't want to hear. Like, repetition is key. We just want this quick fix. We just want to go to sleep and wake up and we are someone different. But when it comes to your subconscious, it needs the repetition. Just like you can't go to the gym for one day and have the best booty ever. Like, you've got to work on it. Your mind is the same. So I have always been so consistent with these practices, which has definitely paid off. And then pulling it down from the pedestal by getting in the rooms, listening to podcasts like this, normalizing it all.
Yeah, I love that last piece as well, like taking them off the pedestal and the whole piece of consistency. It's like a lot of the times people just like think of like a spin bike. A lot of the times people like if you stayed on that bike the whole entire time, you're eventually going to achieve the success that you want. And so a lot of the times people just get off
Yeah.
and they walk away. And there's like this image I've seen, like it's like a meme, I've seen it years ago. And it's this little cartoon character and he's chipping under all these like rocks for gold. And he's so close to hitting the diamond. Have you seen it? Yeah. And
Yeah.
then it shows the image. He's just one hit away and he turns away. And
Mm.
that is something I always remind myself of as well. Is like you honestly never know. One more conversation, one more podcast, one more client, one more post. You never know where that can take you. And like I've had pieces of content that I've put up where perhaps I didn't think that would be it. And that's what just absolutely landed for somebody to become a client, or a podcast episode that I thought was great but wasn't amazing. And that's what hit home for a listener. And so
Mm.
it's just a piece of like one more. And it's like, this is almost like, well, not almost, this is like our life's work. So
Yeah.
it's not something that we just want to quickly get through. And then what happens? Like, so it's when you can look at it through that lens, it kind of, I think, anyway, can help take the pressure off and just allow you to lean into it. And I loved how you said, what does success look and feel like? Because oftentimes, like in particular, when we're just starting, we think it needs to be this certain way. Like this whole 10K months is such a thing in the industry, and we think it has to be, yeah, a certain way. But if we can be like, actually, what do I want success to be? And get curious with that, you're going to just have so much more fun.
Yeah. Literally run your own race. It's a whole module in one of my programs.
There you go.
But of course, in order to run your own race, you've got to get clear on how you want that to look.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about your podcast. It's just like figure out that first step and then take it, and it will all unfold itself. But you've got to be the creator of your life. You've got to start somewhere. Yeah, love that.
Amazing. Well, Jess, I love to end all of my episodes by asking, what is something you've recently started in your life?
Ooh, okay, this is very random,
We
but
love
really
random.
fitting considering you like health and wellness. Having bone broth every morning.
Okay.
Yes, very
Interesting.
random, but I'm talking about it to everyone because I'm like, drink your bone broth in my bloating, my energy. Um, oh my God, it's been the best new addition. So bone broth, and then also saunas have been something new that I've incorporated, and just the overall impact.
Mhm.
That's my newbie
I
that I
love
have to recommend.
that. So bone broth, like before coffee, after coffee, like what does that look like?
Yeah. First thing in the morning, like literally as you wake up, which sounds disgusting, but I promise it's not as
Okay.
bad as what you think. You get used to it. So first thing in the morning, I think they do recommend first thing, but I'm sure if it's after your breakfast, if you cannot stomach that first thing, it should be okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, I get up and I make it first thing in the morning, and it's just a part of my routine now.
We love that. And we know how much you love your morning routine, so that makes sense.
Yes, and I'm big on romanticizing my morning routine. So I'll bring
Yeah.
any new addition. I'm like, yep.
That's so great. So, Jazz, please share all of your links. I know you mentioned your meditation as well. I'd love to share that with the audience and where they can find you, where they can work with you, all of your things.
Yes, so I am hanging out on Instagram all the time, every day. I love Instagram.